Hey everyone, it's Chris from the Nerdlies. Just wanted to say two little items off the top before we get to our episode today. Just wanted to give a shout out to our friends over at Mythic Goat Coffee. Mike and Johnsy started a small business in Tempe, Arizona that is providing coffee, all types of blends. I know they're adding extra ones as well and starting to move up and do all the things. So we wanted to give them a shout out and talk to Mike the other day, and he actually gave us a promo code in case anybody wants to try out their coffee, and it is Nerdlies. You can use the Nerdlies promo to get 10% off your order of coffee from their site. We have tried it out. It's pretty darn good. Please check them out. Love to support our friends and support small business. And so if you go to mythicgoatcoffee.com and check out with Nerdlies, you get 10% off your order of some great coffee. And if you're eco-conscious, their packaging is all compostable. So definitely check them out. They're doing great things. Another thing is that we added an extra new t-shirt to the merch site on TeePublic. We designed a Pride themed shirt for our tagline, Go Forth and Be Nerdly, because we want to make sure that everyone is included in the nerdly crowd. Check that shirt out. All the proceeds for that shirt will be going to LGBTQIA plus charities. Stuff like the Trevor Project, GLAAD, the Okra Project, all those types of places. And if you have suggestions too, please let us know, because there's obviously tons of charities out there that are helping those marginalized communities. So that's it. Just wanted to shout that out before we go to this episode. Please enjoy this episode of the Nerdlies podcast.
Your favorite couples here so easily accessible. Grab your headphones, hit play, turn up the decibel. Master of the pod like a young Skywalker. Shout out to homie Yoda, cause great are we talkers. The crew is firm, so it's love to AZ. You signed the Tempe. Scorch the competition simply. Sure to get you high like some true West Coasters. Look at the flick of the wrist, one guardian Leviosa. LA is always sunny, Comic-Con with honeys. Pokemon and Dunny, sneaker hype, be sticking money. Erase your rows of eyes and see Lee made it funny. Time flies and now my flux capacitor is running. You not rocking with us, you like a muggle wizard, see. Just stupefy yourself with the wave of wizardry. Like Mario standing still in the left's a moving screen. A world full of nerds, but only two nerdly. The dopest show you ever heard, you see. It will be. In your drum like an infectious beat. We complete. They like when the short and long hear me. Cause we the nerdlies, the nerdly. The dopest show you ever heard, you see. It will be. In your eardrum like an infectious beat. We complete. They like when the short and long hear me. Cause we the nerdlies, the nerdly.
Welcome to the Nerdlies podcast. I am Chris.
I am Rachel.
Hello, everybody. Hopefully you guys are doing well. We are currently still in a pandemic, so that's fun. And everything is still on fire. So, it's been
2020.
It's 2020. We're going through some things. But today we have something special for you. We have our friend, actor extraordinaire, the person inside of Ned in Earth to Ned, Morgana Ignis. Hello, Morgana. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me back for is this our third time?
Ooh,
our third time doing this?
It might be your fourth appearance.
It might be. This might be the fourth time we've done
We
this.
did two.
I believe maybe
the
like
cast.
I'm not even because I know we've had you guest host other things that we've done.
Yes.
And like that. So this is old hat. It's good to be back.
It's true. How have you been? How has the quarantine been treating you?
It's been oddly it's been great in some ways and terrible in other ways. It feels terrible to literally say anything in 2020 has been great. But the weird thing about this is that while the entire industry has been shut down, and that sucks because I miss being on set and a bunch of people are out of work, it has forced a lot of people to be independently creative outside of the sort of normal big budget movie studio agency sort of thing. So in a weird way, this has forced people to be creative in new ways and has been empowering towards independent creators who have been working at home anyway. So
totally.
I've been doing a lot of animation voiceover work. I've been doing a lot of writing with people and sort of development stuff, and uh, doing weird things. Like I'm working with one group right now of puppeteers in which the puppeteers are all over the country, but we've all been shooting on green screens, sending in our material, and then comping our stuff together, which is something we'd never think about doing before.
Yeah,
But because we have that restriction, we're now like, oh, we've kind of created this project in which we're working with people we never would have thought to work together, because, we're all stuck at home. It doesn't matter if your home is down the street or in New York.
Yeah.
So, we might as well try this out. So that's been good. The rest of it's been continuous monkey paw of just what new terrible thing can happen. I got into a bad car accident like
I was going
about
to
a
ask
month
you about
ago.
that. Yeah.
So
Are you
I've
doing
been
better?
recovering from that. And then my father fell down a staircase last weekend. So I was out today with my crippled ass, helping my dad's crippled ass go to the same hospitals I went to 2 weeks ago.
Oh my god.
Well, I'm talking to my girlfriend in Seattle who's driving by the smoky ocean from all the wildfires in California, staring at the active volcano in Washington, just being like, well, of course it has to explode this year.
Right?
All
Yeah.
it's missing
It's just
is just what we haven't had is an exploding volcano yet.
Yeah.
This is we're saving it for winter sweeps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a season. We
Yes,
can't give up all the
yes.
good stuff mid-season.
Exactly.
Winter sweeps is coming. That's when we're pulling out the stops.
There was
It's
that.
really like 2020 can't pick one dystopian
No, not at
future
all.
and stick with it. It's just a
doing the whole
sampler
book of
platter
Revelations.
of
It's like
every sort of doomsday we
it.
can put our hands on.
Because LA and Oregon are experiencing Blade Runner 2049 with the smoke and red ash everywhere, and then there was, like you said, with the volcano or whatever volcanic activity. There was that news thing, I think it was a month or two ago, where Yellowstone was having seismic activity, and it's well, might as well have a super volcano,
Yeah, this is
whatever.
literally we just woke up one day and Godzilla, King Kong, Cthulhu, and Galactus all showed up at the same time, and it just got confusing. They're just oh, I guess we're all doing this. I guess it's just
they're
pick
looking at each
a
other
corner
"Did you
and go
wanna
to town.
No, did you want to go?
It's the mega team up of all things. That's all it is. That's how we do it.
It's the year of fuckery. That's the only way to really put it.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yep.
Well, I wanted to touch on something you said. I feel like creativity is one of those things that you kind of thrive off of the restrictions, right? Because stuff like Jaws wouldn't have happened without budgetary and technical restrictions of what happened with the shark. It wouldn't have been as successful, I don't think, or certain things wouldn't happen without people having to think creatively around technical issues. Do you feel
because
that's
you
very true
will
for you?
go for, if you have all the money in the world, you're gonna go for the easiest way. If you have all the money to throw at it, you're gonna pick a non-risky, easy way of throwing it. You're not gonna try something new. You have all the money in the world to just go with what works and what you know works. So that when you're taken away from that and you're like, okay, we don't have money to do it the right way, or the quote unquote right way. Now you have to figure out a different way of approaching this. And that's been the whole year for creatives. It's normally with a shoot, what we would do is rent a location and bring in all the people and have our catering and have our safety and have our full crew and everything. And it's actually, we can't do any of that. So what do we have laying around the house to shoot this sketch?
Yeah.
And we've seen Saturday Night Live doing their at-home episodes. Some brilliant stuff came out of that.
Absolutely.
Literally, we have nothing else to work with right now.
100%. Yeah.
My friends at Henson they shot those Fraggle Rock episodes for Apple TV, which just got picked up to a full series. But
awesome.
the shorts for Fraggle Rock they did all independent, socially distanced things.
Wow.
Henson literally sent briefcases of green screen material and hookups and everything they needed and the puppets, and they each shot on green and each went out on their own and used their house as locations that Uncle Traveling Matt would go we're gonna travel to down the street in
That's
the
awesome.
kitchen, or and it was great. It worked.
Awesome. Yeah.
But that developed a whole new way of doing things. Otherwise, it would just be we'll just do it the way we always do, or we have everyone come to the lot and build this.
Yeah.
But
One
it
thing,
works.
the thing that I was gonna ask you too, because obviously I work in the industry, kind of not the same type of industry that you work in, but we work in TV and all that. I have seen, obviously everyone has to be at home. There are reporters happening at home, and they get their equipment sent to them, and then they have to figure out how to work it by themselves without a technical crew. So I've seen, obviously, the people struggle with it and stuff like that. What is kind of the thing that you had to quickly, or that you didn't realize you hadn't learned before you had to start filming stuff yourself in the house?
Well, to be honest, I have had the Adobe Creative Suite installed on my computer, gathering digital dust for literally so long now. It's ridiculous how much I've been paying each month for programs I've never bothered to learn how to use. But, if I'm going to be creating content, I'm like, okay, I have these programs. I'm paying for these programs. I have the capability of doing this. It's like, okay, I have to dig in and figure out how to edit my video and edit my audio and start digging into things like After Effects and seeing what I can do with them. I've been avoiding it because my main passion isn't being an editor or being a visual effects artist. There are people who are far better at that than I will ever be, who I'd rather leave it to. But in this case, it's like, okay, I need to learn this stuff because, as much as I would like to work with a crew, that's not the luxury I have right now.
Yeah.
So, what I'm talking to you right now is the mic setup I have in my room that I have set up full time, and the laptop I have set up in front of me that has the output and has all the stuff hooked up to it. All that stuff I had to learn. All this stuff I had to put together and create space for. And this is the first time in which I have a situated work desk, which is just for that. It has everything set up for work. And now that I have that set up, now that I know how to use that stuff and have it all in front of me, I want to use it.
Yeah.
And instead of waiting around, I'm like, okay, I've started teaching myself this. This stuff is available. I want to use it now. It's now mocking me in the corner of my room, calling me lazy. And how dare it? Who gave it that right? So that's,
Yep.
That's exactly how I feel. Sometimes I'm admittedly kind of a technology junkie, so I have a lot of stuff that I just have sitting around that I haven't used, and now it's like I gotta start using those cameras. I gotta start using these like lights and all these.
Well, I'm sure
like
you're just pouring yourself a bowl of cereal in the morning, looking into your corner, and your mic's just looking at you like, huh? So, you are doing an episode this week, right?
Yeah, yeah.
We're not decoration. We do work.
Yeah. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Yeah, like, 'cause you just start seeing like, oh, I've now have all this time, and it is kind of like I've seen people talk about like, oh, you kind of feel lazy because you haven't been creative, but we are in a pandemic, so there is like a lot of like low motivation and stuff like that.
Okay,
but
to everyone who was posting those memes of just like, if you have all this free time now and you're not doing amazing things, then you had the time, you're just lazy. Screw you.
Yeah.
We are going through a world trauma right now in which the fact that all of us aren't just in the corner rocking back and forth in the fucking fetal position is a damn miracle.
Yeah.
So as far as people who are just, just like, oh, you have a million things to do right now. It's like, no. First, I have to freak out in the morning for 4 hours on whether or not the world's going to end. And then maybe I'll think about making a joke.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe I'll think about getting some laughs after I deal with the fact that I might die by going to the fucking Carl's Jr. down the street.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
I have a lot on my mind.
Give me 2 hours after I wake up to just lay in bed and just stare at my ceiling and think about all the things that could go wrong today.
Yeah.
Yeah. As much as I'd like to blame people, like, I'll be enjoying last week tonight, and John Oliver at the end will be like, we're off for the next few weeks. I'm like, doing what? You're filming in your basement. Where are you going?
I know. It was like, it was so funny.
You're not on vacation.
I was watching it, and we were watching the Scott Pilgrim reunion. They did a reunion table read. I don't know if you saw it, but they basically read the entire movie front to back, and it's one of my favorite movies ever. And I was like so upset that Brie Larson wasn't there, and I'm like, I'm sure she maybe has a legitimate reason that she's not there, but I'm like, what the fuck are you doing?
We've been given
everyone
a lot
else
of
except
gifts
for
like that.
Kieran Culkin, but yeah, I was like her and Kieran Culkin. I was like, where the fuck were you guys?
I have been loving the reunions that Josh Gad has been putting together. Those have been great. I just his Back to the Future one was just pure joy. The Princess Bride remake starring everybody doing the video scenes at home and in their front yards and all of that. Hysterical. Never would have been done if we weren't in the situation we're in right now.
And the Parks and Rec episode that they all shot from home too. That was incredible.
Yeah, it's and again, like these are amazing things that I think people realize once the pandemic is over and once we aren't doing this due to the fear of death and just just realizing that production value is wonderful. And I love production value. And I would much rather do something that is done properly with a full crew and everything. But that isn't the only way of doing things. And sometimes and there are ways to get ideas across and make entertainment for people that you don't have to overthink. You have the talent, you have the minds, and you've seen that the audiences are just like, we love this. This is great. Yeah. The fact that you've literally drawn on a mustache and you're fighting with brooms in your backyard for like this little like, Princess Bride remake. Like, this is wonderful. Yeah. This is very charming. We know you're trying your best here. But, in the future, I'm glad that people feel that this, it's like, it's enough. This is something to give us right now, and it's enough without putting the pressure on you that it's not going to be what it usually is.
For sure, for sure. And that selfishly, as a person who works in like production behind the scenes, I hope it. Not that, definitely not accusing you of this, but I hope it gives everyone more of an appreciation of all of the behind the scenes stuff that it goes into making a production work, because there's a lot of things that like people kind of take for granted from certain parts of the production line. I think that they wouldn't have had to experience themselves if this didn't happen. Yes.
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, like I'm glad that I am learning how to edit and learning how to do this stuff, but I'm not great by any means, not like at all. This just gets me to barely passable content that I might be able to create. Well, I've been in the trenches in a lot of forms. I've been a PA, I've been a makeup artist, I've worked in continuity, I've done all of these things. So, one of the things that I get a lot, because I get frustrated about, not working on the sort of projects I want to work on, wish I was cast in other stuff, are people who, with all the best intentions, say, make your own stuff. Just write your own material. And I'm like, okay, I want to I want to act. Yeah. That's what I want to do. Like, making my own stuff is like, I'm not just writing it. I'm producing it. I'm scouting locations. I have to figure out, like, I still have to call in a million favors for people to like shoot it, hold up sound. Then I have to call an editor. Like, none of this is one person. Even the smallest productions, it is still a good, solid handful of people that you need to pull something of this off. And it, to try to do it on your own and try to be like, I'll just make my own thing. Yeah. That takes so much time and so much frustration. I have some friends who do an amazing job producing their own content with a very small amount of people, but that's not why I got into this. I got in to do the thing that I'm passionate about and work with people who across the board are passionate about what they do and have an experience and an expertise. To think that I could just pick up like some audio equipment and make it sound as good as some of the amazing, audio department people that I've worked with on set is just not true. It would be arrogant for me to think that I couldn't come even close to the art form that these other crew members have dedicated themselves to. That's why I love working on big productions, because what a big production is a stage full of people who put as much hard work and passion into what they do as what I've decided I want to do.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and no, I totally agree with that. I think that's that's one of the things with productions that it's just fun to see how every little piece works together, and everyone has their art part of their craft, and that's super cool. And like you said, like YouTubers and stuff like that, it's not easy to be a YouTuber like that, to be like vlogging every day.
I've seen
or
friends of
whatever,
mine, it's like, yeah, it's easy. It's somewhat easy to just set up a camera and start talking into it, but it's not done at that point.
Yeah.
I see them afterwards slaving away over their shots and editing them and color correcting them and fixing audio and doing all this stuff for what people are just like, oh, this is just a fun unboxing video.
Yeah.
Like, no, it's not just an unboxing video. There's a big difference between me just setting up a camera, pressing play, unboxing something, and pressing stop, putting it online. No one's going to watch that. There is some level of production value in the good YouTube streamers. They do know what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, absolutely. But okay, so let's get into before we start going on a tangent of more of our our struggles of being in the house all the time. Obviously, just relatively recently, probably within the last couple weeks, Earth to Ned came out on Disney Plus. This was a project that I heard about from you and way early on. We couldn't really talk about it at all because nothing had really been announced yet. I did that shoot with you, I think in like November or December last year, and you had told me a couple things about the thing, and I'm like, I'm so excited about this and I want to talk about it, but I'm like, nothing really has been announced yet, so I can't really say so much on the podcast. But I was just so amped for you to get the opportunity to work with the Henson Company and doing this type of show. Like, they've lit a fire under me when this show came up to get some photos done, because at that point, like, before this show came along, it was a dark year for me, like, career wise. Like, that last year was the year that two of my main shows that I was main cast on got canceled, which was Stand Against Evil and The Curious Creations of Christine McConnell. And it was the longest period of time that I wasn't working, and that was a major bummer. So the way Earth to Ned came about for me, because I didn't actually hear about it initially. The cast of The Curious Creations of Christine McConnell, which was the last Henson show I did, where I was the body performer for Edgar the werewolf. We did a big panel at Midsummer Scream. It was a huge blowout room, room filled to capacity panel, and I did that with my castmates. And I was walking around the convention with Michael Ostrom, who plays Rankle and who will end up playing Cornelius on Earth to Ned, and Colleen Smith, who plays Betty on Earth to Ned and who was Rose on Curious Creations, and was just talking with them about, what they're up to. And they both told me, it's like, oh, we just jumped on to this new Henson project. It seems really cool. It's this really fun, like, sci-fi project. Didn't give me many details. And they're like, you should contact Vince and see if there might be something for you on this. Vince Riza, who was the executive producer of Christine McConnell, who I'd worked with before, I have a good relationship with. He's Brian Henson's right hand, basically. So I did. I'm just like, oh, I would love to work with these guys again. And Vince got back to me pretty quickly and is like, this is very different than what you've done before. He's like, it's a very different type of puppeteering thing. It's a very different type of rig. So we would love to have you over to try it out. If you're interested, we will definitely give you a shot. So, I'm like, what do I have to lose? I have not worked for so long during this period of time. I'm desperate to get back in with them. So I went to the Creature Shop, and the first people I see in there is pretty much all my castmates from Christine McConnell. Everyone I worked with who was part of that cast of puppeteers, they all auditioned, they all got on this show. So it was like a reunion again of Christine McConnell people, which was great because we were all really bummed out we didn't work together on a second season. So awesome. I came in dressed like I was going to get into a creature suit. I didn't know what this character was. I didn't see designs. I did not know what they were doing. It was not that. Ned is far from a creature suit. He is
big.
Yeah.
And they had not even developed the technology fully of what he was going to be.
Yeah, that's
so
what I was like. That was my main
my
thing watching. I'm like,
audition,
what is
since I had
that?
to I had to keep in sync with Paul Rugg, who was
Yes.
cast to play Ned at that point, and Michael Lustrom's banter was taking a skin that they had made of Ned's head, putting my hand up inside of it, and puppeteering the mouth, and basically puppeteering and animating this head. Now, I was auditioning for Brian Henson, you know, the son of Jim Henson,
Yeah.
Yeah, no pressure.
puppeteering, and I have never puppeteered before in my life.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Not once have I puppeteered before in my life. And you know, I've been a stop motion animator.
Yeah.
I've been an actress for many years doing different character work. So a lot of elements of that had come into play. But as far as putting my hand in a puppet and looking in the monitor and doing that, I've done elements of that, but not fully.
Oh,
The
yeah,
first
yeah.
person I'm going to do it for is a Henson.
Oh man, you're right. Yeah, like
So I'm like,
Insane. Yeah.
awesome, no pressure at all as far as doing this. And but something happened where it's kind of like you end up realizing that I've never done this before and I know how to do it, and was able to follow along to such a quick degree, because the elements I learned from acting, from being on stage and doing theatrical work, from doing improvisational stuff, from doing stop motion animation, all those elements came together that while I hadn't puppeteered in like the practical sense, the theory of it
yeah.
and the idea of it was something that I've been doing for a decade. So it all meshed together, and like I walked out of that like I think I nailed it.
That's awesome.
And literally got an email when I got home
That's awesome.
afterwards
dope,
to
dude.
come
That's
back
so
to it.
awesome.
So it was a wonderful thing. I like burst into tears when it happened, that I'm like finally like going back to work. And not only that, but with so many of the people who I worked on this show that I was so depressed about being canceled, it was all coming together. And the next several weeks, almost immediately after getting cast, was something that I've never done for a show before, which was rehearsals and development.
Yep.
You never get that on a show.
Yeah.
You show up with what the crew has made for you, what the effects artists have made for you, and figure it out when you shoot. Since Ned wasn't built yet, the way that Henson kind of works, especially for something like this, in which it's kind of a new rig that they're developing, you as the puppeteer who's going to be in it has to be there with them to test it out, because you're the one controlling it. So there's no point to them figuring stuff out if it doesn't feel right for the puppeteer.
Yeah.
So for I think about 3.5 weeks, I was just at the Creature Shop every day working with the amazing Creature Shop people to make this rig and to be a part of this process of building this rig and figuring out what it's going to take to make Ned work and come to life, which in and of itself was just such a humbling and amazing experience.
Yeah, I bet. That's amazing. That's so cool. Yeah, because like that was my main thing watching it too, and also I think it's in my head. I already had I watched like all of the behind the scenes for The Mandalorian, and saw like kind of all the different like creature things that they had, and like with Baby Yoda, how there's literally like someone who's doing gross body movement, and then someone who's doing the eyes and the ears and the face, and like there's so many different servos and things like that. So I guess I was like curious as to because I saw that like I was looking at the credits of like who did what, but so is the head part, does it have any animatronic like elements to it? And then were you...
The face is yeah.
It is completely
animatronic.
animatronic.
Is completely animatronic.
Okay.
If you were to think of me as a body part of Ned, I'm essentially the spine.
Okay.
You
Got
can
it.
That's
imagine
kind of what I was
the spine
imagining
does
is you
as
were
far
the,
as
we did the
moving
front
the body
two arms
back and
too,
forth,
right?
back, front, neck, like
Okay.
everything that would be connected to like from the skull
Yeah.
down the spinal column is everything that I'm controlling on it. movement.
Okay.
So as far as the face goes, that is 2 people who are just doing the face.
Yes. Okay. Oh my gosh, that's so
which has
cool.
been cut down significantly, because if anyone is a Farscape fan, then you'll no doubt see a lot of similarities to the puppet they had, Pilot,
Okay.
who was very similar in the sense of being a gigantic puppet with a lot of animatronics and a lot of limbs. That took way more people, but Henson has been continuously developing this digital technology and has gotten it easier and easier to program functions and have it be a little bit more customized to what the puppeteer wants. So Paul Rugg, who is the voice of Ned, is controlling the mouth, which in almost all cases of puppetry, even if there are multiple people on a puppet, the person voicing the character is whoever is controlling the mouth for sync.
Yes.
So he's controlling the mouth on a digital puppetry rig, which is off stage. So he's watching on a monitor and has a hand in this digital puppetry rig controlling the mouth expressions. And then next to him is Alan Troutman, another veteran, amazing Henson puppeteer, who's just controlling the eyes. And each eye is its own independent source. So he has both hands controlling 2 different eyes, like eye stalks.
Just jumping in for the eyes, because like that was one of the things that I'm like, how did they do that with just the technology? Because it does all this like incredible eye movement that goes in and out and stuff like that, and then all this other movement to it. I'm just like, that's just an insane amount of articulation in one section of this puppet.
Yeah.
Well, while I was mentioning working with the builders to build, to get this rig built for Ned. Alan and Paul were working with the programmers on the digital side to make sure that the programming of these facial mechanisms worked.
Yeah.
The technology was there, but as far as the customization of what the controls do, it's very customized to what the performer needs. If Paul, for instance, is saying, Ned is making this sound a lot that has this expression, is there a way that we can program this so that I can get there easier? If that is something in his personality to get there easier, can we do this? All of that was sort of developed along the way, and even during the process, during production, we would discover things, and that would be an adjustment on that side to figure it out as well. And that's the same for Cornelius too, for his eye stalks. We had Drew Massey, who's another amazing puppeteer who was the voice of Edgar on the show, was doing Cornelius's eyes and working with Colleen and working with Paul and everybody, and everyone was kind of collaborating and discussing how to make the digital aspects of this work. Which is an innovation that's been there forever. If you go through the system of the digital puppetry rig, you'll find files on there that have been programmed for like the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movies.
Yeah. Oh my
like
God.
it's the same sort of stuff, just continuously updated. So it's this Henson technology they've been developing over a long period of time.
Yeah.
But they're both doing the face, and the way the rig is, I'm suspended above the ground about 8 feet.
Okay.
Wow.
So, it's on an axis so that he can bend forward. He can kind of get anywhere he needs.
Okay.
So around me, in front of me, is Donna Kimball, who she was the voice of Agra on Dark Crystal and is now Moki on Fraggle Rock. She has both of her hands in 2 of the gloves in front, going through Ned's outfit and into these gloves.
Okay.
So those are
So the front, like the front ones, right?
Yeah, those are the 2 front hands. Okay. And because he's so big, it takes 2 puppeteers to do both the back hands. So we have one person on the back who has their hand in the right hand, and another person doing the left. And those have been the additional puppeteers you'll see. There's been a lot of swings. We've had, a lot of the time it was Raymond Carr and Greg Bellora, but we had Jack Venturo and John B.F. Flatty and a lot of different people who've also been back there with us.
Yeah.
That's
what
so
an
amazing.
incredible
So
like
amazing, yeah.
just the way, I mean, knowing that essentially that's what, if I'm counting correctly, that's 6 people for one Ned.
Yeah,
That's
each time. And
incredible that you guys can work in sync and make this character a fluid
It's
one
so
thing.
seamless. It's such an amazing.
And we say this
I love
each
it.
time because it is just as amazing to us that it all works as well as it does, because in every logical sense, it shouldn't.
Yeah.
You know, this is not most of the show is not rehearsed. The majority of the show is not rehearsed.
There. Yeah.
So for us, you know, all the interviews, while there is a little bit of direction and there is a thematic thing, like, you know, Ned's going to talk about this and we'll have some little comedic bits here and there, most of it's improvised, and it's very off the wall comedy. So all of us being on the same page, if the arms weren't on the same page, you would notice. Yeah. If the arms wanted to do a different thing, you would notice. If the body and the head were doing a different thing, you would notice. And we're all kind of chasing each other too. We're watching each other. So just as much as I'm responding to something Paul says, if I am doing something with the body, because, you know, the body sometimes does stuff when you're not talking, he'll find something to throw into the attitude that I'm giving on the body. So Ned ends up being a mesh of so many creative acting choices that end up kind of being this melding pot for Ned's personality as a whole.
Yeah, what I was gonna say was, it's just kind of, well, when I was watching it, like I said, my mind kept flipping back to everything I watched about the Mandalorian, and how, like, with Quill, there was a woman inside of, there was a person inside of that suit, and then she had this, like, mask essentially on her face that was all servos and was animatronic. And that was something I was thinking about when I was thinking of you being in there. I was like, so is it, like, were you having to, like, have some kind of way to hear? Was it very loud inside with all the servos going and things like that?
It actually wasn't, because Edgar was loud. So Edgar was loud because I had all the servos on top of my head. My arms are up above me inside of Ned's head. So my hands are up near the servos, not my head. So that was different. It just gives you an idea of how big he is.
Yeah, that's nuts.
Because I'm nowhere near his head. My arms are in the head. I'm just in the stomach. And in the stomach is like a command center. So I have.
So you guys are basically in like the capsule and like the first NASA rocket.
Yeah,
like
it's not far from that. I mean, it's you know, it felt like I'm in like the gunner of a spaceship or something, because I'm like loading into this seat. I have this pole in front of me that has all these monitors on my screen, and my arms are up inside the neck. So
I have a little bit of like of knowing what you feel like, because we lived in Connecticut for a while. One of my friends randomly that I was working with, her husband just came in one day and was like, I was like, oh, what do you do? He's like, oh, I work at, a hardware store, but I also run my own puppetry company. And I'm like, excuse me? I need to be your best friend. And I was literally like, I would do anything to learn puppetry. I've been obsessed with Sesame and everything since I was a little girl. Like, I'll do anything you want. And so I literally just like threw myself in, was like, anything you need me to do, like, I'll do anything. And so like I was just like in the background for a feature thing that they were doing at the time. And then like I helped out with a couple other things, but again, like I'd never done puppetry before. And like just holding your arm in the air for that long, like you don't think about it. And he was like, oh, you're gonna get real fucking tired. And I was like, okay. And he's like, you don't believe me, but your arm will
undoubtedly
like,
doing Ned, and this is a different muscles than you've ever done, than anyone's ever done on a puppet before, just due to the nature of it.
If anyone at home wants to try it out, just hold your arm up right now and just see how long you last.
Yeah, like
just tell us if you can last.
Or maybe like even like try to match your own like voice.
Well,
with your hand
keep in mind
too,
something for the interviews is that those interviews are cut down from probably 45 minutes to an hour of talking with our guests.
Yeah.
And during that time as well, I had this great opportunity because we had to, we'd have to break about 3 times during the interview to give the puppeteers a rest. Even for the puppeteers in the pit who have their hands just in gloves, not holding up a puppet, that's hellish, to do that for 15, 20 minutes straight. Yeah. So, we would take breaks, and during that time I would get to chat with the guests, just shooting the shit. And that was a lot of fun. I got to really spend time talking with everybody. But for me, I'm so excited to be a part of this world of puppetry because I know just having acting as a profession, for me, the medium and the way in which to act was never like a high sort of priority. It was like, I need to be seen as myself. I need to look like this. I will only do these type of projects. For me, it's only been story. It's like, would I watch this show? Do I want to create this show and bring this sort of character to life? Is this my wheelhouse? So I've been very lucky to find so many different ways of doing that, whether it's stage or whether it's voice acting or whether it's underneath prosthetics or in suits. And puppetry is, even though I hadn't done it before, something I've always loved. I grew up loving the Muppets. I grew up loving Sesame Street. I was friends with Carol Spinney towards his later years before he sadly passed last year, and visited Sesame Street. It was one of the most amazing experiences of my life, flying to New York on his invitation and seeing Sesame Street. But it was intimidating to get into because it's just like I felt like I have to, I would have had to start this when I was a kid.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of people who kind of accidentally found their way into it, who are on the show, who are amazing puppeteers now. A lot of people came through Brian Henson's Puppet Up program, which is a live adult humor improv comedy that he does with this amazing set of performers. And for that, he basically created it by taking a bunch of puppeteers who didn't know how to improv and a bunch of improv people who didn't know how to puppeteer and sticking them together and say, find a middle ground.
That's so cool. Yeah.
Teaching each other. And a lot of people on the show, Michael Ostrom, Colleen Smith, they came from that.
Yeah.
And, it's a hysterical show. But it's the same sort of thing where it's performers that didn't necessarily come from, it's like, I want to be a puppeteer. I'm starting from a puppeteer background. They're like, I'm a stage performer. I'm an improv person. I've just done human roles in film and TV. And it's like, okay, what happens when we take those elements that you've done and you try to transfer them through a puppet? And that's been a really exciting thing for me to figure out is, as I'm becoming more comfortable with puppetry, I'm more able to make the puppet do stuff that if it were just me, it would look like me. And even during production, during stage readings, I would be standing near Paul Rugg as he's reading from the script, basically mouthing his lines, but I'd be moving my body in the same way that I would have Ned doing this.
Oh, nice.
So
yeah.
Whatever Ned is doing with his body and his neck and all of that, I mean, if I was in an alien makeup, just lip syncing, that's what I would be doing.
Yeah,
that's great. Yeah,
and that's a exciting thing for me to figure out. Is just like, okay, this is still performance. This is still me. And I have to say, Brian Henson was an amazing producer to have because he really encouraged me to, put myself into it and really drove it home. And it's like, I didn't hire you because you're a puppeteer, because you're not. I didn't hire you because you know how to use this puppet because it's not even built yet. I hired you for the specific performing instinct that you have. And that meant a lot to me because that's all I want to be hired for. I only want to be hired because you like what I personally bring to the table.
Yeah.
So in this case, learning how to puppeteer and learning this different way of performing has opened me up to new characters I didn't really think I could play before.
That's awesome.
Doing it this way, it's like, oh wow, I can play a giant 9 foot tall multi-armed alien in real time.
Yeah.
And make these celebrities feel like they're talking to this alien.
Yeah.
Even with this group of people, it's still I'm watching on screen. I'm like, Joel McHale is looking at what it looks exactly like a giant 4-armed alien talking to him, and that's amazing.
Oh my gosh.
So awesome.
Yeah, and it's one of those things. Like I think there's just a certain magic to puppetry in general that I don't know that like, I know people love it. Obviously, people love Sesame Street, love Muppets and all that stuff when they watch it on TV. But there's something about seeing it in person and then seeing like the guests that come up on Earth to Ned, like seeing them light up when they see Ned and when they see the Claudes, when they see everybody else on the set. Like, that's incomparable to see how that thing is performed in front of you. And I think that lends to why the show is so successful, I think.
Yeah, that's one of the things I love that Jim always did when he was around, was that he didn't hide the process.
Yeah.
He loved being seen with Kermit on his arm and doing interviews and everything, because to him, he saw that the illusion is magical.
Yeah.
But the process of how they got to the illusion is just as magical. There's a whole other magic to seeing the ingenuity of bringing this thing to life. To have it cropped on screen where you don't see the puppeteer and don't see what's going into it to make this character work is amazing. But there's a whole other level to pulling out.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
and
that's
seeing what went into it.
Yeah. Like, that's what, like I said, that's what I love about like all the like those Mandalorian things. Like, I almost love that more than the show. I love the show, I love it, but like I get so geeked out by the process of it too, just because, like I said, I got to dip my toe in puppetry just a little bit and just knowing. But then in that process of doing that, I got to see some people, like my friend Shane, who he actually works at Disney World now doing puppetry there, and just his like ability to make the like any puppet just come to life, or like he would put like just like eyes on his hands and be able to like get in my face with it and just make that come to life. And I was just like, it's just such a awe-inspiring thing, and I'm sure it was just like so cool to get to see all the different, like even the little Claudes, and like it's such a cool thing to know that there's like one person for each one. You know, seeing all that and like seeing, like I said, seeing that through the eyes of the guests and stuff was just amazing. I had such a fun time watching it.
Seeing the expressions, like because something I discussed very early on before we even had the guests on is that, you know, initially Brian wanted, you know, we were all going to be on stage before we got in and meet the guests and everything. But I had brought it up, and I'm just like, I would definitely want to meet the guests before we officially start shooting, but I don't want them to walk on stage with Ned not alive yet.
Yeah.
Like, I want, when they walk onto that stage, for Ned to immediately welcome them to the ship.
Yeah.
And to see, like, you'll see them, you know, they have their makeup people and stuff like that on, and they haven't seen the show before. There's nothing to show them.
Yeah, exactly.
So for them, they're just like, okay, you know, a lot of them didn't know what to expect. It's kind of hard to get guests for a first season of this.
Yeah, sure,
you know, we were very lucky that, you know, our head writer Eliza Skinner, who you know developed this show, she has a great address book. Yeah. And she has a lot of friends who like her enough that she can call them up and be like, hey, so I have this crazy show idea. Do you want to come check it out, Paul Scheer or Andy Richter or any of those, and talk to a giant alien puppet? And, you know, they'll take time out of it, and it's like, okay, there's got to be something good there. So they're unsure when they first walk on stage of how this is going to go. Is it going to be an awkward sort of like between two ferns sort of thing? Is it gonna, like, what's the feel of this? Yeah. And by the first break, they are laughing hysterically and having the time of their lives.
Yeah, totally.
Like there was one guest who literally, like, she was already having fun during the interview, and then when it broke, it turned out that all the laughing she was doing, she was purposefully cutting down so she didn't just freak out. The minute the cameras stopped on break, she just screamed that this is the most fun she's ever had.
That's awesome.
And
so cool.
and that made us so happy. So many of them talked about the fact that this is one of the most fun interview shows they've ever done, because it's so silly and so loose, and that in a way you're able to be more honest. It's not a show in which you're there to promote something, in which a company that spent hundreds of millions of dollars on something is depending on you to promote it.
Exactly, yeah.
You don't have to look your best and like be this presentable sort of like late night talk show guest. You're there to have fun with puppets.
Yeah.
And talk about subjects that are not necessarily specifically about you. Like, tell us about, it's just like, what is comedy, Kristen Shaw?
Yeah.
Or, having Jenny Slate on, not
Jenny
to
Slate
talk
was
about
so good. I
all
was
of
just
Jenny
about to say
Slate's
that. I
projects and
loved
the million things she's been in, but
so great.
what's great about pets?
Yeah.
And then going into like a random thing about prank phone calls. Like it's just random, just fun bits.
Yeah.
It's one of the closest ones to, well, the reason why I like interview podcasts for the most part is just you get to know, like, you have a subject that you're trying to hit on. Obviously, there are themes to every single show, but it's fun to see the celebrities have to think on their feet about something other than their, like, the normal
Celebrity.
question, their celebrity and the projects that they're working on. They're just thinking about things that they enjoy.
Like I have to explain what, like, this concept that this thing doesn't know about to them in a way that they'll understand it, and and also like it's just this crazy fucking alien, so I can just do whatever I want. So like, that's
the thing about it, it's
like,
a hugely ironic and wonderful thing that so many of our guests will find the most opportunity to be real on a show in which they're talking to a giant four-armed alien.
You're right.
And the banter back and forth is so a lot of it is improvised, like, especially during the interviews and everything. But the tone of the show and obviously the story elements have just this amazing young, diverse writing team behind it. And I've worked on a lot of projects before that have writers who are a bit jaded, who have been around for decades and have this solid idea that whatever worked in 97 works just as well in 2020. and it doesn't. Like, you want to appeal to a new audience, you better be the sort of person who likes stuff that appeals to a new audience. So between like Eliza Skinner and Jordan Morris, Nick Weiger, Sierra Cattell, like, so many of these people that were a part of this show, who are part of this writing team, they're young stand-ups. They have their podcasts. They do podcasts all the time that are loose and fun and have an audience behind them. They go out, not this year, but most years in which you're not going to possibly murder your audience with your breath. They're out trying material and seeing what works and running the risk of like, okay, I have to appeal to an audience in 2020.
Yeah.
And what works today? What's relevant? What do people want and what are people sick of?
Yeah.
And creating that tone for this show, I was in awe because for me, and like this is fun, this is campy, but it's not cheesy.
No,
it never gets cheesy.
It was so genuine.
And that's the biggest thing is that it ends up being fun with puppets without being there are no like eye-rolling groans in this.
No, not at all.
There's what I think is great is that just puppets in general, like we talked about our friend John in Connecticut, Elmwood Productions. I'm just gonna shout them out here. They do some great stuff, and whenever you hung out with them and they had a puppet on their arm, you were in the room with your friend and another person, basically. Yeah. And there's something about puppets that kind of breaks your wall down a little bit. Something about seeing the puppet come to life breaks that, like, gives you your childlike wonder back.
100%, yes.
Every single time you see one working in person.
It is really interesting to me how very, very few people I've seen will resist the urge to look at the puppeteer in the eyes when the puppet's talking. Like if someone has a puppet and they are talking through the puppets, like I've seen people be irritated with somebody who like runs up to them with a puppet to annoy them in some way, and they'll still yell at the puppets.
Yeah.
They'll be irritated and want no part of your bullshit act. But when they let out their frustration,
Yep.
it's at the puppets.
Yeah. 100%. Yes.
And that's an amazing thing to me that for some reason humans have this natural inclination, you know? I mean, I don't know what it is. I mean, it could just be the fact that like puppetry has been around for so long. Maybe it's just ingrained in our DNA. Since it's puppetry, you know, it precedes to television. It's been around since, you know, pre-Renaissance times.
And it's a testament to how amazing puppeteers have gotten and still are, because there are subtle things that puppeteers do that you just don't even think about that you do as a human being that they put into this character. There are things that obviously you're working the body, and it's like you're making subtle body movements that are human body movements or creature body movements that make the character come alive, that really sells the point that this is a thing that you're talking to. Like, this is an existing character.
I laugh at a lot of it because, you know, there are certain things, especially when like Ned is being sarcastic or sassy or something like that, where I'll just laugh to myself. It's like, oh, that's absolutely 100% me, like, you know, putting that in there. It's just, you know, it's just like if there was any doubt whatsoever that there's like a 30-year-old trans girl who grew up in like LA inside of the body making it like over it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's awesome.
To be very, very, it's like, again, we're talking about like the melding pot of so many different people who are controlling this character. And I have an ingredients. I have a very weird flavor that I've dumped into this pot that has you know, mixed it up.
Yeah, that was actually one of the things I wrote down, is just how fun was it to make it dance? Like, that's all. There was several dance like numbers / sequences where I was like, how fucking fun was that? Like, that just looked like such a amazing time. I'm sure.
While some things were super fun just to choreograph and get correctly and to figure out, like the musical episode, all the musical bits of just making sure we get those choreographed things working was a blast to figure out. But the Reggie Watts interview.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We knew he was going to do something musical, obviously, because we had to plan that out of like Beam and his stuff for. But that was a completely improvised song. We didn't know what it was going to sound like.
Yeah,
there was no rehearsal for it. So what you're seeing as far as like Ned's dance working is 100% all of us
just kind of
in
jamming,
the moment, just grooving to the genius of Reggie Watts.
I know. Like I said, those episodes were just like one of my favorites. Like, that just
it's so good, and
it's
you know,
so cute. Just all the different hands.
Such a good sport for it, and you know, I didn't even notice what the other characters were doing in the moment. So seeing Cornelius dancing, which again is two people in that puppet, so doing the hand stuff and all of that, like you have to imagine that it's Michael Ostrom who voices Cornelius and Nicolette Santino who's just the right arm, I believe, just the right arm of Cornelius. So when his hands are doing like the wavy stuff and everything, like remember,
amazing. Yeah.
Those hands belong to two different people.
Yeah, it's so great.
So it's so good to imagine like everybody just loving this song that Reggie's coming up for and getting this little performance from him. Yeah. And it's just a blast. I mean, that's the truth of the thing, is that and Brian Henson said this at the very beginning, and he couldn't have been more right, which was, this show, warning at the beginning, this show will be the hardest you have ever worked in your life on a show, and it will also be the most fun.
Yeah.
And that is 100% where I was at. My hands were killing me because the way I puppeteered in a very specific way that gets great subtle movements out of it while completely just screwing up the muscles of my hands. It's a sacrifice you make, and I'm happy to make it because I wanted to go back to set every single day. I could not wait to find out who was next.
Yeah, totally.
Whatever was next on the show, whatever guest, like I was so excited. There wasn't a single guest. I'm like, I can't wait to play with this person.
Yeah.
Oh man,
So cool.
I mean, we were talking about it before. I mean, I know Rachel's messaged you a ton of times about the Claudes. we love them.
Adorable.
And
Sorry.
just like all
I
the
love
little,
Ned too. I love everybody.
just
But
all
Ned
the little
was.
things that came in with that show, with all the little pieces, were just so wonderful. And it looked like you guys were having fun. Even it comes across the screen as the puppeteers are having a great time doing this, and the guests are having a great time. And that's
Simply
anytime a guest
put,
would see a
everyone on
Claude
that
and they
set
would
was
just
having
kinda be
fun.
like, "Hi."
That's what it came down to. Even on our hardest days when everything
Yeah.
was so physically demanding, it was just always fun. And as far as the Claudes go, there would be no greater mistake that Disney would ever make than not making sure that Claudes are underneath every single Christmas tree in December.
Fuck yes.
Everyone wants
Fuck
a
yes.
Claude, and
Yes.
I do not blame them in the least because I wanted to.
I'm sure.
It was just really hard not to Claude nap one of them when production ended.
yeah, you're right.
Just watching the Joel McHale, he's just like,
Yeah.
like, I was like, that's totally me. I would totally do that exact same fucking thing because it's so
They're
cute.
they're outrageously adorable and just like I already have friends who are just slaving over getting the perfect fan art of this done, and the most fun that one of my friends is having is just designing Claudes.
That's so
Like
great.
she loves drawing these like little baked potato faced
That's
things
so
with
good.
teeth and fur and
It would be a mistake for them not to team up with Cher to get her likenesses
Oh my
to
God.
put out the Cher
Oh my
line
God,
of
that was
Claudes.
like-
Well, you know
was
what?
like,
What
how
I
freaking-
really
yes.
would love to see is you know how like websites have like create like the paper doll sort of
Yeah,
things of
yeah,
like
yeah.
dressing them up.
Yeah.
Like I want to see
Claude.
people's Claude saunas.
Oh yeah.
Like in the
Yes,
same way that like, people were
seriously.
just like, this is me as a Family Guy character. This is me as
Yeah.
a South Park character. It's like I want to see people with their Claude saunas.
Yes, please. I will do that.
Absolutely.
Make the app right now and I will do it. But yeah, I just
That
love
would
that they
excite me
each
to no
had a little
end.
hairdos different
Yeah.
and like, oh my god, it was just adorable. I was like, how much fun did the costume people have making those freaking little tiny shirts? and
They're
costumes?
amazing.
I was like, holy shit! Like,
here's the
yeah.
thing. It's like
I was like, that's amazing. Like, so dope. That's
Yeah.
so cool.
yeah, I could literally, just spend this entire podcast going down and praising every single person on this crew list because
Yeah.
every single person pulled out the stops for what they were doing, and that included like the art department and the costing department. At the time in which Cornelius is giving Ned crap for not like so distracted he doesn't realize that the Claudes have learned French.
Yeah.
That was literally a joke that was come up with during production. Like, oh, we would do this, but we don't have the costumes and stuff like that for the Claudes. The crew made it happen.
That's so
We
great.
made sure to like French up those Claudes and make sure that like that joke
Everybody has a
happened,
brain
and
right
it
now.
paid off.
Yes,
So
100%. 100%.
All of us just flipping out watching the Claude reenactment of the Darth Vader versus Obi-Wan Kenobi fight.
Oh my god, it was insane. Yeah.
And Drew Massey getting all the credit he deserves for creating the perfect old Obi-Wan Kenobi impression in Claude speak.
Oh, it's so good.
Oh
Oh my gosh. It's definitely one of the more, I mean, if somehow anybody hasn't watched it that's listening to this right now, I don't know why you haven't. I highly encourage you to, because
I mean, we faced, we faced some competition in exposure. I mean, we came out the same day as Mulan, which is which is a film that had about 5 billion times our budget. It's like definitely one that they have more marketing money for. And Phineas and Ferb, the movie, that was like a new project. So there was a lot of things that came out on Disney Plus at the same time that they've been marketing, but we went international with Ned, and there's a lot of dubs and a lot of kind of like countries whose Disney Pluses have Ned as well. So it's all over the world right now, which is really cool. Hopefully it'll be available in even more countries. But the response we've been getting has been so overwhelmingly wonderful. Like, I know personally, like at the very least, like me, Eliza Skinner, Scott Stenholm, and Vince Riza have been refreshing our Twitter feeds continuously to read every single review and like it.
Yeah.
Like
That's
it's
great,
just like
yeah.
you'll see like a review from like somebody with like 3 followers. It has 4 likes on it. The 4 of us all like liking it within seconds of it being posted.
Yeah, that's
And
great.
you know, it's a risk. That's the thing. The most satisfying thing about this is that everything about it's a risk. It is a super weird show. It is a super experimental show. It is a show that has like brand new characters that we are basically asking you to fall in love with in the first episode for the rest of the show to make sense. And that's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of pressure to go up against that when Disney has another puppet show on it right now, which is Puppets Now, with established characters that have been around for decades.
Yeah.
So, you know, there was that pressure of like, you know, us just kind of being like, we really hope they like Ned. We really hope they like Cornelius and Betty and the Claudes. Like, you know, we just want them to like our children. We're like sending our children off into the world and hoping that people love them. And people are. And
That's great.
It's so amazing that even across the board, we haven't even seen like a fan favorite. It's like everyone has loved everyone and has loved the way that they work together. So that's, you know, that's been really exciting to see. And we have at least 10 more episodes that are still to be released.
That's
It's awesome.
I
So
can't
cool.
wait.
You know, we've just like spilled the beans on that because we're just like, you know, because we just almost like we want to let the guests know that it's just like we didn't cut you out. Like your stuff is coming because
worry.
some of my
Get
favorite
bumped.
episodes haven't aired yet.
Oh, well, that's great.
But we're, you know, we hope we get to do a lot more soon.
I mean,
You
we
know,
hope so
once-
too.
Once the
Yeah.
pandemic's over.
Yeah, because I was gonna ask, like, I guess since you probably can't talk about maybe who's the guests coming up, or like who, like from the first 10 was like one of your favorite people.
Oh God, it's
I know
so
it's hard. I'm
it's
sure
so hard to say. Like all of them brought something unique to the table. I would say like, you know, the best people who we had on were people who I guess like we're just game to try things. You know, who knew how to talk with puppets. Really, it's like a lot of people who come from sketch backgrounds or you know, like sketch show backgrounds and things like that. Like they knew exactly what to do. You know, Jenny Slate during that whole that whole prank call thing. All of that was improvised.
That's so great.
None of that was talked about in advance. She just rolled with that like everybody else did. Thomas Lennon, when we had him on, came up with things that we just had to roll with because he had this idea in his head, like the Betty getting inside of his head and buzzing his brain thing. We did not talk about that with Tom Lennon at all. He just like went back in his chair and started doing the thing, and we're like, oh, I guess Betty has this power. This is great.
So great, yeah.
You've made this canon now. Okay,
And,
we're gonna
and
go
you know,
with it.
obviously, like, you know, when we had Billy D. Williams on, I think all of us, like, the entire energy of the studio changed when he entered because this guy radiates cool. Like,
Every time you see
like
Billy D
however
anywhere,
cool you think Lando Calrissian is, this guy is just Lando Calrissian.
I love
That is
it.
all. That is what he is. So when he walks on in his like amazing like pimp wingtip shoes and like scarf and like he sits down and like he doesn't even have to do anything. We're all just in awe of Billy D. Williams like sitting on the couch. So
it was great.
there were just so many great moments. I mean, Raven Simone was wonderful and so gracious. And,
I love that you guys surprised. It seemed like you
know,
guys really surprised her with that piece of artwork.
Yeah, I don't know if that was planned or not, or that was something that we kind of got around on. But you know, she was so sweet, and everyone was so kind and so wonderful to have on there. No one came in with attitude. Everyone clearly wanted to be there.
Yeah,
and that was what was so great. Joel McHale like made me laugh so hard that I was just grateful that the microphone wasn't.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I was like, it's gotta be hard when you're like, oh god, I can't.
No, I mean they.
To a degree.
A lot of what Joel said was not Disney appropriate. Would never have made it on.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
What was enough to just make us want to piss our pants, like laughing. I hope that one day there are deleted scenes and extended
Yes,
interviews for
please.
some
I
of
will
the stuff,
pay for
because
that. I
there's some
will,
great
yes.
stuff that made it in, but some of the stuff that didn't,
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
you know,
I'm
it,
sure
it
there were
couldn't have
things
made
that
it in.
I'm sure there are
But-
things that Joel McHale said that made you make the body do things that we're not supposed to be doing. The net wasn't supposed
yeah,
to do.
no, I mean, if it was Mike, you'd hear like somebody like snort laughing inside of Ned's stomach, nearly falling out of their chair.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
and again, that was what made it so fun. We didn't know how the guests were going to be, and we kept expecting one of them's got to be the diva.
Yeah,
One
right,
of them's got to
Yeah,
be the
yeah,
jerk.
yeah.
And they just never showed up.
That's good.
That's good.
That's awesome.
That's great. I think, and that's a testament to how well you guys did your job and how you guys arranged the set so that it feels like you're on a talk show with an alien. Like, I'm sure that makes it
was
so much
amazing, too,
easier
yeah.
to buy into the concept of the show when they show up and it's like, oh god, this set is
I'm on a fucking spaceship
immaculately,
right now.
yeah. It's a
I
There's
just
no
I just
doubt.
don't think it's possible to get on that set and sit on that couch and be in a bad mood.
No.
yeah.
It's just like, how are you, you know, if you've had the worst day of your life and you come and sit on that couch and Ned starts talking with you and
Yeah.
Cornelia starts talking with you, I just can't imagine you just being like, okay, yeah, of course this is fun.
I could imagine that being like, even at like a long press day, you're doing press all day and then Ned's the last thing you do. That's probably the highlight of your day.
Well, I think it's also a relief for a lot of guests
Yeah.
Yeah.
because it's so not a press junket. It
Yeah,
is so not doing Access Hollywood or you know, doing your basic late night show or something in which you're, you know, you have to understand whenever you see an interview with your favorite celebrity who's like on the circuit talking about Star Wars or talking
Yeah.
about Marvel, that the acting ability they need to have to act like they haven't been asked this
Yeah.
question a million times already and
Yeah.
still act like, you know, imagine like the same day, some like being asked the same question 30 times
Yeah,
and not just being like, it was great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
right.
was so fun. Please fucking stop.
So what was it like playing such an iconic character? It's like, it's my job.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I got paid. I'm
knew it,
here.
I did it,
It was
okay?
fun. It's over.
Oh my god, yeah, no.
And yet I'm still here talking to you.
And then there's like, and you can't even blame, like, hopefully people can't blame people for like looking like they're falling asleep during a press
Yeah.
junket because these actors have to do these press junkets 12 to 16 hours at a time.
Yeah,
They're
they
just doing it
flew
all
in from
day.
another fucking country and got shoved off the plane like, go talk to these people. And you're like, okay. Like,
Yeah. Now instead of it just being like, you know, tell me about your process, it's now just like, well, Robert and Bindi Irwin, what do you think of my pet lemon?
I know,
Yeah.
right? Oh, that was, oh my god, the fucking lemon.
And
That was amazing.
It's again, it's just it's fun
So
and it's
good.
different and it's
Yeah.
loose and it's play.
Yeah.
And it's not just play and it's not just improv games. It's all of this with giant puppets.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I love that about it. Well, I would be remiss to ask you to tell Paul Rugg one thing for me, because
What's that?
Now that I mean, I didn't know who all was on the cast, and then I finally like looked up everybody's. It's hard because people are puppeteers or voice actors. I don't usually see a lot of faces for the most part, and I recognized Paul Rugg immediately because there is a viral video that he did that is one of the funniest things I've ever seen. I am sure, I don't know if you've seen it, but it's the
Oh,
one.
are we talking about Paul Rugg's late wonderful Chihuahua?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh my god, it's one of the best videos I've ever watched in my life. I laugh every single time I see it. I have to tell you to tell him that he brings me so much joy every time I want to look that up. And
Yeah.
I love the fact that Paul Rugg has this amazing career of voice work that
Yeah,
he's done,
absolutely.
including Freakazoid, which
yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
Awesome.
which still to this day has such a loyal cult following.
absolutely.
But you know, if you're not recognizing his voice because he's a voice actor, he's almost more famous for having a very angry Chihuahua, and I love that is a staple of his legacy is just his very
I genuinely hope that doesn't bother him.
angry,
That's
growling
that's
chihuahua.
what I relate him to. I hope that doesn't bother him, but I just love that video so much. That's one of my favorite things to
No,
watch.
he
when
of
I'm
course he loves it. I mean, sadly, it's, sadly that dog has passed since then. But like, that dog became an instant celebrity on the internet. And it's funny because I didn't put the connection together either. But like when Paul had mentioned it, like at lunch one of these days, I'm like, oh, I've definitely seen that video. I have seen that video dubbed in a million languages from people sharing that video.
Good.
And it's genius.
It's just one of those, like, they're just like videos that you keep on like a loop of when you're just not feeling that good that day. That's something that you guarantee that will make you laugh, and that's definitely one of them for me.
It's a very happy time video, undoubtedly.
I remember my dad sending that to me, like, way back when. And, like, just like, this is the funniest thing I've ever seen. I'm like, yes, it is, Dad.
Like, you're right.
And again, we're just so lucky to have the talent that we do, because you know, the writers are amazing, and so much of the jokes and banter just come from random things that Paul, Michael, and Colleen come up with on the spot, and everyone just rolls with it. Just throws it in. It just keep filming. We'll make it work. And in some things, like, we didn't know whether or not they were going to make it in the show. They were like running gags that made no sense to literally like anybody but them. Rula Lenska. Rula Lenska is like a bizarre reference that Michael and Paul made to each other during rehearsals, and Eliza decided it's like, that's got to be in the show, and they're like, that is not going to be in the show, and it's in the show. And Rula Lenska is very much still alive. And is very much on Twitter. And I have to wonder what grandchild of hers is like, Grandma Rula, you should see this, because there's a giant alien on Disney who's in love with you.
So good.
And by the way, the amazing thing is that, like, I looked her up on Twitter, and somehow, while she has aged, her hair has only gotten more fabulous.
Oh.
Wow.
Like, it is this thing that would make drag queens blush. It is this like tresses of just waves and insanity from you know, the you know, again, it's such a bizarre random reference, but it's just like it's gotten a bunch of people who are just like, who the hell is Rula Lenska? Which apparently was the question in her heyday, seeing her in commercials, where people are just like, who the hell is Rula Lenska?
Oh my gosh.
But now we all know Rula Lenska is Ned's one true love. That's who Rula Lenska is.
So good. So good. I love that. Well, I don't want to keep you too long. We obviously love talking to you. It's always been great. You're on the fourth time. I know that we're gonna have a fifth time or a sixth time at some point.
I'll bring more friends.
Yes. But you know, I just want to say I'm so happy for you that you got to do this, and like everyone seems to be reacting to it so far. I'm sure it's just one of those things where you just get this satisfaction of, hey, I put in all this hard work and all this stuff, and now you're finally getting, like you said, you're sending your child out to the world, and now you're hearing back that your child is like loved by everyone. You know, I think that's I'm excited.
It is very satisfying, and to be honest, like, with an entire year in which there was nothing to talk about but what new thing we're all very angry at, we're all very justifiably angry at, it has been nice to spend all my time on social media just being able to gush about this show and being able to like show love to all the people who are showing Ned love. Like, it has been a very positive, wonderful thing to just spend all of my time on Twitter and Instagram continuously refreshing Earth to Ned and hashtag Earth to Ned and all of this, just to be able to enjoy that, because this has been a rough year for everybody. And the idea that even though this was shot last year, that I was able to be a part of something that made people happy,
Yeah,
and
100%.
genuinely not cynically happy, but just
Yeah.
goofy, fun, positive, happy. Like
Yeah.
I'm you know, it's a very it's a nice warm feeling.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. I absolutely. I'm happy for you that you get that. I like that. That's a good way to be able to contribute to 2020 without having to
Absolutely.
having to just be raging on the internet. As most
Yeah,
of
I
them.
mean, there's still plenty of that,
there's
believe
plenty,
me.
yeah.
But
You should listen.
at least I can balance it a bit. You know, have my rage tweets be specifically from the
Yeah.
12 to 2 p.m. radius.
Right,
And the
yeah.
rest
Yeah.
is just happy thoughts.
Yeah, we usually spend about the first 10, 15 minutes just venting for a little bit, and then we go into the things that we like. So it's it's been helpful for us. Oh man.
I mean, every podcast should just be retitled "Everything Sucks and We're Doing Our Best."
Yeah, right. I was just
We got out
listening
of bed
to
this morning.
I was just listening to I think My Favorite Murder, and they obviously their episodes are always very long, and they did 45 minutes of them just venting about something, and then they were like, "Oh yeah, we still have like 2 murder stories to read to you guys."
Yeah, to come down from all that negativity.
Oh man.
It's like, all right, can we just change the subject onto a happier title? So her body was found in the back of a cab, cut into 5 different types of pieces and sent around the greater Chicago vicinity.
Oh my gosh. That's exactly what it's like.
You know, like my because my girlfriend listens to them, and so many friends of mine have been listening to them,
Yeah.
and it's such a popular thing. And I just love that the way that so many people are just like, I need to unravel from how bad things are. Let's listen to some murder documentaries.
It is very, very strange.
But it didn't happen to you, so
Yeah.
So that's
It's
the-
just like
that's the
it's
thing
like
to
they
take
just
away
like
from
just
it.
like just relaxing after, and just like, oh yes, it could be worse.
Yeah,
It could be
so
so
much
much worse.
Oh, man.
Like, yes, I'm worried about paying the bills, and I haven't worked. I'm on unemployment, and I'm worried about
Yeah.
going inside. I haven't seen my loved ones, but I'm not decapitated.
Yes. You haven't been sent pieces of your loved ones in an envelope or anything like that. That's, you're not at that
Isn't
level
that all
of
you can hope for
desperation.
right now? Yeah.
No, it's a positive experience.
Yeah.
It's
very
educational. It's positive. You're just able to enjoy the fact that you weren't murdered today, and that's something.
Yeah, that's something. Something you can
It's not nothing that you weren't murdered.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
It
it.
is. It is not.
Oh,
If there's
man.
one thing that you can go to bed at the end of the day knowing you accomplished,
Yeah.
it was the act of not being murdered and talked about on a podcast.
Perfect. If I can continue that streak for a while, I'd be very happy with myself.
You deserve a pat on the
the end of
back
this year.
every
Just to
morning
the
you
end.
wake up not being the subject of a murder podcast.
Oh man, I just watched this. I mean, TikTok is obviously very like, to some people like it, some people don't. Whatever. We'll scroll through it a lot. We've been scrolling through it a lot this last couple days, and there was one the other day that I saw that this girl was in her like criminal justice class, and they went through. We're going to go through this assignment about a kidnapping, and she realizes as they start talking about it, she's the subject of that kidnapping.
What?
So they taught a lesson in her class, her criminal justice class, about her kidnapping.
Oh my god.
Incredible! Like, how insane
I mean,
is that?
you better ace that completely.
Right? Oh my god. That's insane.
You put the corrections on the test, right? Like you have to write in and be
Actually,
like, hey,
Imagine
like
imagine
this.
getting that assignment and failing it.
like, no, that's not how it happened. Yeah, it kind of was. It kind of was.
Yeah, I don't know. I think
It's okay. Yeah, you know,
I don't see
disagree.
you with a criminal justice degree. I think I know a little something about your kidnapping and your trauma. Thank you very much.
Oh man.
I did over 25 episodes of kidnapping podcasts. I think I know a little bit more about your pain and suffering than you do.
Oh man.
Yep.
Well, Morgana, where can everybody find you on social media on the internet?
Feel free to bug the crap out of me on Ignisgram on Instagram and IgnisQuote on Twitter. They're both very obnoxious handles they should be able to find easily.
Love it. I love it. We'll definitely link all of that stuff in the description down here. And obviously go watch Earth to Ned on Disney Plus. We look forward to the next 10 episodes. I'm so excited to see them. And I'm just, again, just so happy for you that you're able to do this great stuff and be able to give that to everyone during this like weird time in our lives.
Well, I'm so glad you two enjoy it, and I can't wait to do our 6th episode of this podcast at some point in the near future.
And hopefully, when we do that, we can actually give you a hug. Like actually like physically be in the same space.
Yeah, I can't wait and I can't wait till hugs aren't a threat anymore.
Right.
Oh man. Well, thank you again. I appreciate it. We will hopefully you guys have a great week and all that stuff, and go forth and be nerdly. We'll talk to you later. Hey everyone, if you like this episode or any of the episodes that we've had, please do us a favor and go on Apple Podcasts or Stitcher and write us a review, and just subscribe to us on any of the platforms that you have. You can follow us on our social media at the Nerdlies, pretty much everywhere: Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and what's the words? Instagram, YouTube. You can find us on YouTube, the Nerdlies. We do need more subscribers on that so we can lock in our channel and stuff like that. Rachel's social media is
Lady Raygun, LadyRaegun.
Yeah, on Twitter, Instagram, and she has a Patreon account
Yes.
that we are still shooting stuff for.
And also I have a Facebook. I don't have a Facebook anymore, but I have a Facebook page that is Lady Raygun Cosplay if you want to check that out.
Yeah, and that's also facebook.com/Lady Raygun. But yeah, come follow us and do all the things. We'll see you soon, and thank you so much for supporting the show.
Thank you.
Bye. Go forth and be nerdly.
Who are we? Don't be sure you ever heard you see. It will be in your eardrum like an infectious beat. We complete, they like when the short and long hear me. Cause we the Nerdlies, the Nerdies. Who are we? Don't be sure you ever heard you see. It will be in your eardrum like an infectious beat. We complete, they like when the short and long hear me. Cause we the Nerdlies, the Nerdlies.